Welcome to another expanded universe exploration video. If you do not know, what I do here is I go through the expanded universe, like books and comic books and all that, and I talk about it mostly through a first time reaction type thing. Like this one, I know nothing about this book going into it. I did read it, so I know it now. But at the time of picking this up, I had no idea what it was about, what was going on, which is great. I love that. Some other books like the Thrawn trilogy or Dark Empire or things we have not gotten into yet, I do know background about it, but once I come across those spoilers, I will let y'all know. Last time we talked about the book Courtship of Princess Leia. I thought it was awesome. Even the love triangle in it. I got a video, you guys can see me talk about that all day long. But this is going to be an equally long video. I think I went too overboard with the notes on this one as well. I think I need to cut it back a little bit. But we're going to get through this. We're going to talk about this. And then we're going to rank it. And then we're going to talk about what I will be going into next. And without further ado, Tatooine Ghost. Let's get into it. This takes place 6 to 8 months after Courtship of Princess Leia. Wikipedia says it takes place 6 months after. And the book says 8 months after. So I don't know who's right. One of them's right. Maybe they're both right. Who knows? So this starts off on the Falcon with a vision that Leia's having of Vader's helmet with Luke's face inside in the darkness of space. And I'm assuming this is a reference to George's original plan in Return of the Jedi, where Luke takes off Vader's helmet after killing him, put it on him, and being like, now I am Vader. That's just what I got from it as I read it in the moment. So like Leia snaps out of it, if that's the word you use for it, and they're above Tatooine. She's with Han, Chewie, and 3PO in the Falcon. Now they're keeping watch for other traffic until the Falcon sensors are up and running. During this, Leia is still focused on her vision. She's reminded of the time when Anakin appeared to her on Bakura begging for forgiveness. And I think that's epic. I love that that's mentioned here. Usually in these books, so far at least, they just reference things that happen in the movie and then just ignore everything that happens within the past 5 years. I love that we're starting to get book references in these books. Now, they notice something purposely hiding in the shadows of the planet. Now, it's too square to be a moon, and it's too still to be an asteroid, which doesn't really make sense to me. Asteroids are moving quite fast in space. I don't know. That's probably why it's too still. I'm an idiot. Anyway, it's a Star Destroyer, and it's the Chimera, which is Thrawn's ship, if you know. If you don't know, I told you. But, you probably know. And if you don't, you're welcome. I just taught you something. This is where we find out why they're here in the first place. They're here to get this moss painting called the Killik Twilight, which is on auction currently on Tatooine in Mos Espa. This is important because it used to hang in the palace on Alderaan. But we'll get more into that a little bit later. Now, Chewie believes this was a trap to capture them, which makes complete sense, but it's not. Leia didn't tell Han the importance of this painting because of his current feelings on Mon Mothma and the Alderaanian Council, which is completely understandable because of the last book, and he refused to reinstate his military commission or any former role in the New Republic due to how they treated him in the last book and how they urged Leia to marry Isolde. They all suck. They all suck. Anyway, back to this for now. Three Ties in an assault shuttle depart the Chimera as Han and Leia argue about the painting. Because now he knows that it's basically for the New Republic and all the people that he doesn't like anymore. Now, the real reason why they want it so bad, why Leia wants it so bad, is because there's a hidden shadow key inside the painting, which is a secret communication network device used to send rebel messages disguised as advertisements, basically. Han breaks and he just agrees to do it for her and not the council. And the Imperials order inspection, tell them to stand by and prepare for boarding or they will open fire on them. So 3PO stalls by speaking an alien language, and Han suggests a bribe with Chandrillian brandy, which is the planet where Mon Mothma's from. Maybe the brandy's a lot cooler than her because she sucks. The Imperial officer is impatient and knows the alien that 3PO is impersonating is a Gand, and they can understand basic. and demands they cooperate or be fired upon. Han ejects the goods out of the Falcon, and Chewie maneuvers the Falcon, putting the shuttle between them and the destroyer, so the destroyer cannot fire upon them without destroying their own shuttle. So the Imperials do something unexpected to Han. They just destroy the brandy, which is very nice gift that he gave them, and he is kind of insulted by this. And the TIEs continue to go after them. They planned on not destroying the TIEs at first, making them think that this was just a smuggling run, but the Chimera shot their own TIEs, and so they decide to change plans. Which honestly, I don't think it's much like Thrawn to shoot his own people, considering that the Empire is not at their height anymore. And in the Thrawn trilogy, he made it a point to be like, I'm not Vader, I don't kill my men. But in this, he's killing a lot of his own men, so that's kind of like a plot hole, I guess. Leia destroys the shuttle, but they are still followed by the TIEs, so they travel down to the planet into a sandstorm, and Han hides the Falcon in an old smuggler's cave during the storm. And once it subsides, Han and Leia arrive to this place called Mabo's Performance Hall, where the auction's being held. They are both disguised. Han has a hidden device in his mouth to disguise his voice, and he is disguised as a Deveronian. And Leia is disguised as a Twi'lek. So they get past two stormtroopers guarding, and they come across this Weequay guarding a dingy cloakroom, who just takes their cloaks, does what he does, does his job like he's supposed to. But this species can recognize scent. They communicate via scent, so it's very good at recognition via smell. This guy recognized Han's scent. He knows him. But this Weequay is not intending on betraying him at all. This is where the codenames come in. Han's codename is Solo Jaxel, and Leia's is Limba. Now, the Weequay is named Grunt, and he lets them keep their blasters as long as they promise to keep it out of sight, so he doesn't, lose his job, get in trouble, get beat, whatever is going to happen to this guy if he does the wrong thing. Now, you might be wondering how Han knows Grunt, how they know each other. Well, I'm going to tell you. So, Han won a sabacc game and won this dude. Won him in the sabacc game. And immediately after leaving this place, he sets him free, and he tries to hire him to help him with cargo, which didn't really work out because he and Chewie didn't get along. And he ended up getting owned by Mabo while trying to win his passage home, who owns this performance hall. And so this is just where he's been since that unlucky sabacc game he lost his freedom in. They notice two Imperials enter. One is a technician and the other is a bridge commander. They know the Imperials would not send a high-ranking officer to track down smugglers, so they know they're here for the painting. They also notice some disguised Imperial guards, but, they kind of stick out like a sore thumb. They're not disguised very well. And Leia sees this hollow cube that's going to be on auction. It's an image of a 9-year-old boy in front of an old pod racer, and she notices his eyes are the same as Luke's. Who might this be? Who knows? I don't know, but I do know because I read the book. The owner arrives and talks about the cube, that the image was taken after the boy won the Bunt Eve Classic. I wonder who that could be. I'm sure not going to spoil it for you. I'm going to find out when I want to tell you, and that's not right now. Now, upon hearing this, Han is very dismissive. He says even when pod racing was legal, humans didn't have the reflexes to survive, which I find it very interesting that it's outlawed now, especially on Tatooine when the law really doesn't matter. I want to know how it got outlawed, why it got outlawed, and the process of that. I find that kind of interesting. Anyway, the man says that the boy was his best friend. Now, this man selling this cube is Kitster from the Phantom Menace. That's a hint who the little boy might be. I'm not going to say it until later when the book says it. So anyway, enough with that guy for now. Han and Leia go to a group of 3 squibs, 2 male, 1 female. Their names are Grease, Sleeg, I can't say their names right, and Imala. Now, I didn't keep track of their names while writing down the notes, so they're going to be referred to as the Squibs. And I'm also not a fan of their design. If you don't know what they look like I didn't know, I looked up their design because I was pretty curious as I was reading the book. So I looked it up, and I'll put it right here. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan at all. It's like, I don't know if it's like too, I don't know. I don't want to offend people. It's like too furry for me. and it's too like cartoony for me. Like I don't see these guys walking around next to Han Solo and Princess Leia in like the original trilogy type area. Like I don't even see it happening in like the prequel era. So I don't know. I feel like they're out of place. I don't know if this is like, it was on Wikipedia, but I don't know if it's like an official thing or if it's like like a fan art thing. I don't know. I don't know one bit. But all I know is I'm not a fan of the way they look, as in this picture that I found. I don't know. I thought they'd look cooler or like less cartoony. But enough of that, we'll go on to the book. The thing about these squibs is they're stingy. If you thought Watto was stingy in The Phantom Menace, you don't know nothing yet. Han says that they'll charge you for a bucket of air and keep the air. As we go on with the story, you're going to find out that that is very accurate. Han and Leia make a deal with him, which isn't the smartest thing to do, but, you know, they're kind of desperate. These things will be distracting and annoying to some. The squibs will bid on the Killick Twilight, and they will give them the funds for this. And in return, they will bid on the Squibs' stock, drive the price higher, even buy some of their stuff when people don't want it, stuff like that. And now the painting is brought out for everyone to examine for like 2 minutes. Now, 2 hours later, they're waiting for the auction to begin. Han surprisingly thinks deeply about the painting and its meaning upon seeing it for those 2 minutes. Sellers begin walking in, including Kitster, and Han asks Leia who the kid on the holocube reminds her of. She just says it's his eyes, and Han pokes the bear, you know, digging for more information, and asks if it's because she wants kids. And Leia gets furious. Apparently they had this conversation before, and Leia feels with how powerful her family is with the Force, she has no right to bring a child into the galaxy who could possibly become another Vader. Which is honestly a pretty good fear to have with the track record of the Skywalkers. She says that Han has known this since Bakura, and he had even said that he didn't even mind not having kids. So she finds it pretty odd that he's bringing this up now. And this next part isn't relevant to the book at all. I just thought it was interesting and a new bit of information that I had never learned. She brings up this woman named Bria Theron, who apparently was his first love and double-crossed him to secure the Death Star plans, and was also the founder of the rebellion. Now, I thought Cal Katarn and Jan from the Jedi Knight games stole the plans, and I thought Starkiller had some part in finding the rebellion in that. I don't know if it was the first game, I think it was the first game, with Bail Organa, Leia, and I thought that was the founding of the rebellion. So I'm confused about that. If someone could clear that up for me, I love that. If there's any story with Bria Theron, that's probably the Han Solo trilogy. That's about him in the Empire being a pilot or something. It's probably in there. But I don't know. Never heard her name before. Probably never will again unless I read those books. But someone please let me know. Maybe I'll be interested in that at some point. I love these arguments between them in this book. It's very cool, really interesting. Love it. It's probably one of the highlights from the books, other than something else I'll mention later. So anyway, Han feels that marriage has changed him. Now he wants kids, now that he's a married man, a taken man. And the argument continues. They bring up Isolder. I just want to say one more time that I'm so glad the last book is mentioned here. I was hoping that it would like bleed into something else. I'm glad it's this. I'm glad that Isolder is mentioned. Tenniel's not mentioned. I'm fine with. She was more obsessed with Luke, and Luke's not really in this much. But I'm still glad there's still like some hiccups over the Alderanian Council, Mon Mothma, Isolder. I'm glad that there's still a little bit of bad blood there, and it didn't just get over. It's not like a TV show where it's like one episode, like some drastic happens, and the next episode it's like it never happened. I love this. This is great. Do this in more books. I hope to see this more often. Anyway, Han asks if her and Isolder talked about having kids, and she says, which is very funny, she says, someone abducted me before negotiations could go that far. Love that. That's great, because that's exactly what happened, basically. Kidnapped her, and I'm glad that that's mentioned. At the end of that book, it's like, yeah, whatever, you kidnapped me, who cares? Anyway, Han gets to the point, brings up that her eyes light up when she's around kids, and concludes that she's afraid of having any because of Vader, which is what she said at the beginning of this argument. He didn't listen. He didn't listen whatsoever to what she said. And I love this argument. It's great. All of the interactions between them in this book are amazing. Leia. Okay, actually, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I'm getting ahead of myself. Anyway, Mabo arrives, the owner of this establishment, and at this point, Chewie and 3PO are there, and they're disguised as well. Chewie is disguised as a different Wookiee because they can't really disguise Wookiees that much. He just has a different, braids and hair colors or something like that. And the Imperial commander's also here with armored guards, some disguised, some, legit in stormtrooper armor. Anyway, the auction starts with the holocube, and Kitster announces that the kid in the holocube is Anakin Skywalker, and the crowd erupts and cheers, and they love him. And Han says that explains how a human kid could win the race, the Force. And they mention that Luke found info that suggested that Anakin lived on Tatooine, they just didn't know where. All you had to do was ask around, dude. Did Luke never go to Mos Espa once in his life on Tatooine? He was there for 19 years. I find it pretty unlikely that he never went there. And like, what's your name? Luke Skywalker. Skywalker? Like the Boonta Eve kid? Like, seriously. I feel like, I don't know. I guess it's a big planet. Or maybe Owen purposely never took him there. But I feel like, I don't know, maybe that's a plot hole in Star Wars or something. He had to have been there at one point. I'll let it go because it's gonna take over my body, my mind for the next hour. I'm gonna still think about it for the end of the book for sure. The squibs begin bidding on the cube, and Han planned this out since it was obvious that Leia was interested in it, though he didn't know that it was Anakin before he planned this out. He's about to retrieve the squibs, but he notices a man's hand with a ring which was owned by Threkin Horn from the last book, the head of the Alderaanian Council. And Han hates Threkin, and so do I. So do I. So they're basically questioning, is that Threkin Horn here? How does he have his ring? Why is he here? Is he selling the painting? Why would he sell the painting? So they're kind of wondering. Anyway, they gave the squibs this thing that is like a credit voucher, and it's identity coded or whatever, so they can't really spend the credits, but they have them available. And Han set the credit limit for the cube at 300 credits, but the bidding has reached 510. Han intervenes and grabs him, tells him that he's over the limit, and the squib goes, "What, are you broke?" Awesome. Very funny. Love that. And the squibs are pretty cool, pretty funny. Bad design, in my opinion. Sorry to whoever designed that, but not a fan. Sorry. And the holocube finally sells for 1,300 credits. And now the Moss painting is brought out. So the Imperial commander, who's named Quentin, starts off the bidding with 275,000 gold peggets. He doesn't consider New Republic credits as valid currency, and so he's paying with these instead. And it seems to have scared off the squibs, and they're just silent, even though they're notoriously never scared of anything, never intimidated at all. And the squibs clap back by saying 275,001 in New Republic credits. Savage. The bidding war continues, and the total comes to 5 million credits with the squibs bid. And Mabo announces the owner is requesting a funds verification for them because he or she doesn't believe that they have the credits for this. And Han and Leia, still believing that this is Threkin Horn, decides to deal with him on Coruscant since they do know where he lives. Better lock your doors, Threkin. Once the verification is complete, the bidding soon reaches 10 million credits, and only the squibs and the Imperials remain. Leia pulls out a thermal detonator from her fake Leiku, and Han pulls out vibro knives from his horns. They decide to go with plan B, since they only had 15 million credits to bid. But Han doesn't want to destroy the painting because it's part of her culture, and there's not much of their culture left in the galaxy, so he wants her to have at least something. They end up going to the VIP booth to confront Threkin, because it is him, and he doesn't recognize them, obviously, because they're in disguise and he's stupid. and they threaten to expose his actions to the Alderaanian Council. And Herodian walks up to Mabo on stage, telling her what's going on, and she announces that she will be taking the Squibs' offer because the owner decided it would be an outrage to sell the painting to the very empire that destroyed Alderaan and very change your heart once your occupation is exposed. I gotta say, the main story of this is, it's okay, it's cool, you know, but the highlight of it is just the character moments. So it's like the plot by plot thing that I'm doing here. It's cool. I was a little bit more excited because the last book like had my attention the whole time. This kept my attention because it's like things keep happening. But the last one, I feel like the last one was a lot better. And yeah. So it's like, I'm trying to be excited here, but it's like my favorite parts are between the characters. So it's like, it's going to take a little bit to get to those points. But you know, we'll do our thing here. Anyway, chaos breaks out. The Squibs start fighting the Imperials. Quentin orders his squad after them and they run out of sight and like disappear. Mabo orders her Gamorrean guards to protect the painting, and Han, Leia, and Chewie join the battle. Now Han and Leia take cover behind Threcken's repulsor chair, since now he's dead, he got shot during the battle. And Han throws a thermal detonator, you know. Kitster now rushes the stage, takes the painting, and just dips out of sight. He's gone. He stole that thing. And now it's time to evacuate. Grunt takes Han and Leia to Espa Heights, where 3PO and Chewie meet them. Now, Grunt doesn't understand Shurirook, which is the Wookiee language, which comes into play in a second here. But in the meantime, Han and Leia ditch their disguises and are now wearing heavy sand cloaks. Now, back to where the not understanding the language comes in. Chewie offends Grunt because, is his name Grunt or Grunts? I forgot. Anyway, I have an S in my notes. So Chewie offends Grunts, basically saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. And Leia has him apologize. And I have Grunts and then Grunt in my notes right here. I'm going to take it from the top. I'm going to go with Grunt because I think I said Grunt before. My apologies. Very unprofessional. But, you know, I'm just a dude making these in my room, you know. Hope you like my candle. Anyway, back to the story. Chewie offends Grunt, basically saying he doesn't know what he's talking about. And Leia has him apologize. And Grunt is very on edge whenever Chewie says anything. At one point saying, "What did he say?" Which is great. I love that. He doesn't understand him, but he just assumes everything he's saying is a diss. Anyway, back to the story here. Instead of the character moment that I love so much. They are watching Kitster's house, waiting for the Imperials to arrive, and have 3PO speak to the maintenance droid outside, and it tells them there are 3 Squibs inside. They found this house before the Imperials did. Insane. Now inside, they are running around, rubbing everything against their cheeks, and then smashing it. So they're in here. Let me use something as a prop. They're in this room like this. So they're just doing that, which is wild. And they basically do this with everything. Everything they touch, they're rubbing against their cheek. I don't know what that means, what that is, but I feel like it's a very quirky character thing. I am a fan of it, but they're menaces. It's weird though. It is very weird that they do that, but I like it. It's cool. Kind of makes up for the design that I saw about them that I wasn't a fan of. Now a blonde woman is crouched down in the corner scared, and one of the Squibs throws something at her, just throwing something at her, and screams at her, going, "Where's Kitster?" And she says he's at the auction. And Grease gives her this comlink. So he's like this, and she's holding it like this, you know. I'm acting with myself, so it's not really that good. He gives her the comlink, goes, "Call him then." And then he slaps it out of her hand. He picks it up, and he just goes, getting a little too violent here for this book. But yeah, I don't know why he did that, but I found it funny. These things are menaces, and they're also fearless, which is what we're about to find out now. So Han and the others come in, and at first they don't recognize Han and Leia because they're out of their disguises, but they see Chewie and they run up to him and they're pissed that he took them for 1,000 credits, and they're reminded that Chewie didn't do anything that wasn't part of the deal. If they have a problem with him, then they have a problem with all of them. And the Squibs are not intimidated by this. They do not care. And Chewie picks up the Squibs, all 3 of them at once. They're pretty small. Picks them up, takes them outside to intimidate them into leaving, but they're definitely coming back. These things do not care. They are going to get their credits no matter what. Leia leans down to this woman. Her name is Tamora. She's Kitster's wife. And Leia sees a bunch of children's toys and clothing and asks if they're safe, which pisses off Tamora because she doesn't know who she is. Why are you talking about my kids? You know what I mean? Now they have to win her trust. Leia kind of guesses that Kitster's going to sell the painting and plans to tell the wife that they will pay them more than the Imperials were without violence. They will definitely torture them, her children, and Kitster. So it's probably a better deal for them anyway, most definitely. There's a little bit of discussion about Anakin going on here. After the Boonta Eve race, before he went with Qui-Gon, Anakin sold his pod. We saw that part in the movie. He gave credits to his mom. And he gave Quitzer some of the credits, which changed his life. He ended up using the credits to buy this book called Par Ontham's Guide to Etiquette. With this, he became a steward at the Three Moons and earned enough credits to buy his freedom. So this is the first, basically, of many instances that Leia finds out in this book that Anakin wasn't always Vader. That Anakin, it's a tragedy what happened to Vader, even though he did horrible things. And so this is the beginning of her path to forgiving him, which I love. Great part of this book. It's basically why I'd recommend it. But we'll get to that at the end of the book, Just a little bit of a sneak peek to my thoughts. Han and Leia tell her that they're not going to hurt Kitster. They're thankful for him for saving the painting, even though they were going to destroy it, but they don't tell her that. And they'll pay them enough for this painting that they'll never have to worry about credits again. After this, Grunt contacts Han via his comlink. A squad of stormtroopers are coming and they ask Tamora to come with them, but she says Kitster told her not to trust anyone. And now Chewie calls and he's like, you guys need to get out the back and soon. And Tamora agrees to go only if they show her their faces. And they do, and she recognizes them, mostly Han, because, he's around the planet more. And on their way out, she gets the kids that are hiding in like a shed or something. I don't remember. I didn't write that down. And they end up taking a speeder to where Tamora said Kitster was hiding out. This place he was hiding out is a shop called Wald's Parts, and a squadron of TIEs pass overhead. They also spot 5 Sentinel-class landing craft descending down to Mos Espa, which means a full assault. They're searching for them hella. And as they go inside, Grunts tells them, this isn't my fight. There's no way I'm sticking around, and he's out of there. Which I'm sad we didn't get more of him. I like the conflict between him and Chewie, how they don't like each other, even though Chewie likes almost everyone. I guess Grunt didn't like the smell of the Wookiee or something, I don't know. Once inside, they find out that Chewie locked the squibs in a recycling bin, and Leia's pissed that they're going to die in there. Obviously not that pissed because she immediately bails on this, and then they go and begin looking for Kitster. And while inside, this Rodian puts a blaster to Han's head and tells him to stay put, and Tamora recognizes him as the owner, Wald, and she demands to see Kitster. Well, Tamora convinces Wald there is no danger, and she is with them willingly. But Kitster's no longer there. He was, but a guy tried to kill him, and Wald beat that guy with a hydro spanner. And Kitster ended up taking Wald's old swoop bike and said he was going to go through the Arch Canyon to take the painting somewhere safe. He said that Kit was hoping for a reward and planned on sending a message to Leia. And Wald turns to Leia and says, I'm pretty sure he thought that you were still on Coruscant. So everyone recognizes these people. So these disguises are not good at all. They're trying to think of ways to catch up to Kit, but Wald says he has nothing that can catch him. He says that swoop is about as fast as a pod racer, and he and Kitster built it based on the design of Anakin's pod, and Wald won his freedom with it. So Wald is the same Rodian as the one in Phantom Menace. The one that was related to Greedo, I'm pretty sure. Because I think in a deleted scene in that movie, there was Anakin beating up Greedo, if I remember correctly. I'll put the clip in right here if I find it. Wald has zero surprise that Leia is Anakin's daughter, which is weird to me because how does everyone know? Because in the Thrawn trilogy, which takes place a few months after this, no one knows. That puts a hole in the entire Thrawn trilogy because the Noghri find out by her smell that she's Lady Vader, and so they choose to believe her and follow her rather than Thrawn. And even Mara Jade doesn't even know that they're Vader's kids. That makes no sense to me. That is a plot hole and a half. Holy. But anyway, Wald is pissed whenever she says that Anakin is Vader. So like he either doesn't believe it or he's like Anakin's a better person than that, you know? But yeah, very interesting to see how these people on Tatooine think of Anakin as a hero, because he was to them a hero, even though he's just a kid. So his disbelief pisses Leia off because she believes that denying that Anakin became Vader is denying all the bad things he did as Vader. But they decide to put their differences aside for now, you know. And 3PO interrupts and says that the scribs have returned, predictably. And after a short argument about them being left out in one of their credits, Leia tells them that she'll cancel their chip transfer, which is the credits from their thing that they took to, you know, be a credit reader or something. And so they'd be out of their fee and their proceeds, and they say they'll think about it and they leave. So I don't know where they're going, but they're gone. Honestly, these squibs are better at tracking people down than the Imperials are. They have tracked them down twice already, and the Imperials are nowhere close to finding them yet, which is wild. The Imperials need to hire these guys. These guys are intense, but they will take you for all the credits you have, for sure. And it turns out that Kitster has a first wife named Olda, and she has a swoop that can possibly catch up to him. But the only thing is, her and Tamora have beef, as most, you know, first, second wives probably do. I wouldn't know, but maybe someday, you know. Never know. And on the way to the Mos Espa swoop arena, Leia thinks about Wald's reaction and disbelief upon hearing that Anakin became Vader, and wish it were true that he never became Vader, and her outlook on Tatooine, the people of it, and Leia thinks back to Wald's reaction and disbelief upon hearing that Anakin became Vader, and she wished it were true that he never became Vader at all, and her outlook on Tatooine and the people on it are subtly beginning to change. So this whole book is like, all this with the painting is just an excuse to get Leia to forgive Anakin. It was great. You should have just gave him the time of day on Bakura, because I don't think he's coming back. He said that was like, that could be the last time he could be able to appear, which still makes no sense to me. I don't understand that at all. But at least she's starting to forgive him, like, how many years after? This is like 4 years after. Once they arrive, Han asks Leia if she's okay because all this pro-Vader stuff is obviously bothering her. And honestly, Han is very caring in this story. I don't know if this is going to last or if it's just like a honeymoon phase for him, but, you know, it's cool for it being in the story. Later on in this, Leia really redeems herself in the last story as well, which we'll get into later. Not to get ahead of myself, but everything with them is great in this story, for sure. Now, Alda has hella beef with Tamora. She's taking shots every chance she gets about her weight, about her taking her man. Leia looks at the track here, and it seems to be implied that this is the same place that the Bunta race was raced at. I don't know if that's just me getting that. If that's not true, maybe I'm just dumb looking into things where they shouldn't be looked into. But it seemed to be, as I was reading that it was kind of implied there. So Leia offers to buy Wald's swoop for 30,000 credits, and Alda says she'd sell it for 20, but she only bought it because it caused the death of 6 riders already and doesn't want it to grow anymore. Han insists that he can fly anything, and Alda is like, let me see you ride a regular swoop first. Dude, this chick Alda sucks. She's mean to everyone. She completely shamed this crippled former pod racer, saying he can't handle speed and that he lost a limb because of it and he has half a brain. But this former racer raced in the Bunta Eve, and his pod engines were shot by the Tuskens during the race, and his name is Team 2. And he and Alda tell Leia that Anakin never cheated. He always flew a clean race, and he was one of the few that ever did. And this surprises Leia and kind of changes her views a little bit on Anakin. And once again, we're slowly getting to her healing from all this. Leia has a feeling that the swoop that Han is about to ride is sabotage or faulty, but Alda says if he's as good of a pilot as he says he is, he can handle it. So Han flies this thing wildly and amazingly, despite it being faulty, and they all spot these Imperialist speeders race by them in the direction that Kitster went. So somehow they know the general direction where he went, and they're on their way. So they need to get going. So after this, Han is riding away on this swoop, and Tamora leads the others through the poorest parts of Mos Espa, even through Watto's old slave huts. One of these slave huts Wald currently owns, and Leia suspects it could be where Anakin lived, but it's not really confirmed. Chewie goes back to Wald's with Tamora, while Leia contacts Mon Mothma to update her on what has happened so far. And she decides to call Luke since he's probably the best person to contact without raising suspicion. Though she's been wanting to talk to Luke anyway since that vision at the beginning of the book, and Luke's currently at his apartment reading through the Jedi records that they got from Dathomir in courtship. So he's studying before eventually starting the Jedi Academy, which we will get to those books soon. Anyway, she updates him on what has happened so far. He assures her that trying to destroy the painting like they did was the right thing to do, rather than it falling into Imperial hands and all those spies being killed. She asks him to go directly to Mon Mothma with this information, and he agrees to go first thing in the morning. Apparently, Wraith Squadron, which I don't know much about, but there's a book about them or a few books about them. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'll find out soon eventually. They're scheduled to go on a mission to capture this Grand Moff named Wilkadon. I don't know. I'll put his name on screen. I don't know how to say that. The Shadowcast spies were going to cause chaos with local resistance fighters. The Shadowcast is the only way to contact these spies, and there's no way to contact them. Leia then tells Luke to let Mon Mothma know if she doesn't hear from them in 2 days, then the Shadowcast has been compromised. And now they end up talking about what Leia's found out about Anakin, which Luke already knows all this because he's been researching, going through all this. And Leia tells him that Anakin never cheated in a race, and Luke says it doesn't surprise him at all. And when told he's a local hero, Luke just smiles. He's very happy in this. She asks him why he never told her any of this, and Luke says whenever he talks about Anakin, she just gives him this look. Like, stop, don't do this, he sucks. But now her outlook is beginning to change. Leia then tells him she has a hard time believing in what she's hearing about Anakin. And Luke reminds her that he didn't come out of the womb with a black helmet. He wasn't always a villain. He wasn't always evil. He became that later on. And at the end, he redeemed himself. Leia believes that the Force is leading her down this sort of Skywalker path, and she doesn't like it. Then Luke tells her she doesn't have to like it, just not fight it. He continues to say that if she isn't careful, her fear and anger will only turn her into what she despises the most. Now we're going to Han and his racing, but before we do, I found out through this book that Tatooine's sons are named. One is called Tattoo 1, and the other one's called Tattoo 2, which suck. Those names are not good. In my opinion, get better names. Anyway, Han is facing down Arch Canyon. It's like a serpentine channel, so it's very dangerous with constant sharp turns, and Han is guiding them through flawlessly. And he flies by many Imperial guards, surprising them at first, but as he keeps passing more and more, he concludes he needs to give them less time in between or he's going to get, shot down. Because each time he passes them, the ones he just passed get time to call the others ahead and warn them, and they have time to prepare, so he has to go faster to give them less time to be prepared so he doesn't die. Now Han reaches this part where the canyon splits into 3 forks, which splits into more and more. And his vid map, which is like basically the Apple Maps here he's using on the swoop, highlights a green way, which would be the fastest way possible to get where Kitster would be heading. And through this maze, he goes by many stormtroopers and ends up going down this wrong way. It's not really a wrong way, it still ends up where he needs to go, but it's a way that the vidmap warns him not to because it's dangerous, and the swoop sort of malfunctions, and now he's going too fast, about to hit an Imperial squad. So he pulls up the nose over them, glides over them, and then slams it down and kills them. Now he sees this other swoop ahead of him, and as he gets closer and closer, he notices that this rider is looking back at him, shooting at him. The further he gets to it, he discovers it's not one rider, it's 3. It's the squibs, with one riding and the other 2 looking back, firing at him. These things are persistent. But Han just blows right past them and just waves, realizing that there's no use in stopping them because they will always be persistent like this and always catch up somehow. And he also realizes that the more imps they take out will distract them, and the better off he will be. It turns out that later when they left Waltz, they didn't really leave. They were eavesdropping outside, and they contact him on his helmet's comlink now, and they know he's Han Solo because they are eavesdropping, but they claim they figured it out while he was in the Deveronian disguise, and they say they wouldn't sell out a business partner. And so they tell him that their deal is back on, and if it's not, they'll be free to tell anyone who he is and who the others are. So Han tells them not to crash, because he won't come back for them. And they say they'll just find him anyway, which is facts. I don't know how these things are still living after everything they've been through so far. They were in a recycling bin, trapped. I don't know how long they were there, but on Tatooine, you gotta suffocate pretty fast in that. Die of heat exhaustion. I don't understand. I don't understand how durable these things are. Anyway, Han leaves them in the dust, and he finds two paths on the vid map that lead to the original path that he was supposed to take. One is short, one is long. The short one is highlighted as a dotted yellow line, which means it's a hazardous route, unsafe to him, and he ends up choosing this one. And the vid map warns him that his human reflexes will not be adequate enough to travel this route safely. And in response, he says, yeah, they used to say that about my father-in-law, which is epic. I love that. Great line. And he successfully gets through and back to the main path, where there's another squad of Imperials. He blows past them, like always. Now he finds this straightaway called Main Avenue, and as he travels down it, he looks back and he sees all these Imperial speeders coming after him, and their blaster fire is slowly closing in on him. And Han reaches what the vidmap labels Dead Man's Turn, and he decelerates and rides up on the cannon walls, and there is a sandstorm behind the Imperials getting closer and closer, which was not mentioned until this point. Kind of came out of nowhere, but you know, you gotta have a nice sandstorm in a Tatooine story, I guess, to make this more interesting, even though there's something happening every 5 seconds. Anyway, now he reaches the end of it, and it gets all dark and dusty. The sandstorm has caught up. Now he stops, climbs off the swoop to take a drink of water, and he smells the scent of a crash. He sees bits and pieces of this pod, but not everything. He's like, this must be Kitster, he must have crashed. Now he spots the treads of a sandcrawler, and he concludes that Kitster must have the painting still and must be on this sandcrawler. But there is no blood or anything at this crash site, so he doesn't believe he's hurt at all. Now he calls Leia. He tells her that the crawler appears to be heading towards Anchorhead and to meet him there in the morning. It wouldn't take long to catch this thing on the swoop, but with the sandstorm, he starts to lose sight of it. And so he's back on the swoop, and the dust and the sand is clogging the intakes super often. And for every minute of following this crawler, it takes another 3 minutes to unclog the intakes. So he's basically going through hell here. He can't see a thing without a glow rod. And at times following this thing, he loses the sandcrawler and ends up tracking it for another hour until he finds it again. But eventually he ends up catching up to the sandcrawler, but then his swoop loses power and the crawler keeps on moving, and Han is stuck in the storm. He tries to contact it with his comlink, but gets no response, so then he tries to contact Leia, to which he gets no response again. But now to Leia and Chewie, they're in a land speeder, traveling in the storm, trying to get to Anchorhead. She tries to kill Han and tell them where they're going, but she has no answer because the sandstorm is interfering somehow. She fears the worst, and 3PO assures her that it's just a storm. At this point, they're traveling slower than they could walk. Now, Leia has another vision, this time of a swoop laying on its side, half buried in sand, and the pilot's seat is filled with sand. This freaks her out as she tries to remember what Luke taught her about fear and anger. Alright, sorry for the difference in sound quality, light quality, or in my energy, but I had to do something, so now I'm back a few hours later. So anyway, as we were saying, this journey continues to be dangerous, and they end up getting knocked off course by the storm, so they decide to head to the nearest moisture farm until the storm passes. Leia can feel that Han is still somewhere out there and blames herself, thinking if she had focused on developing her Force potential, she'd be able to find him. Which I cannot disagree on, because you've had 4 years to do something and you've done nothing. And I get that she's scared about, possibly becoming a Vader, bringing another Vader into this world, but got a responsibility, lady. They end up going to the Darklighter farm, which is the same place as Luke grew up. It used to be the Lars's farm before they died. Though it's a little bit farther away on the vid map with the other options of the other moisture farms. The text above it says, Darklighter Farm, fresh produce and good conversation. The other stops were not so welcoming, it sounded like, so they choose this one. Now, Han's swoop looks exactly as Leia saw in her vision. He's very dehydrated and estimates he'll only last about 10 to 12 more hours, and the storm is still raging on. A tie blows past Han and comes back for another pass, launching a capsule behind it. He runs forward thinking it's a bomb, but realizes if it was, he'd already be dead. So he goes back forward to see what it was, and there's a white light like blinking on the tail of it. It's a locator. And to avoid capture, he takes the vidnap and walks into the storm. Meanwhile, Leia and Chewie arrive at the Darklighter farm. They see Jula Darklighter, and he's just asking where his son Gavin is. Apparently, Gavin Darklighter is a member of Rogue Squadron, and he served under Han Solo. And in their hangar, there's a 3-person swoop. The squibs are already there. They update them about where they last saw Han, and Jula says the last thing they heard from Anchorhead was an advisory to take shelter. No one made it in the town. Now, Leia wants to immediately go and search for Han, but they don't let her into the storm. They decide that it would be better to begin the search at noon the next day, hopefully once the storm has subsided. Now, Jula's wife, Scylla, gives Leia a journal which was hidden under a moisture evaporator that belonged to Luke's family. Now, a woman appears on screen who seems familiar to Leia, and she believes it could be Aunt Beru, but no, it's Shmi Skywalker, but Leia doesn't know this yet. The first entry is Watto yelling at her for disobeying her. Now, Shmi says she left this entry in for Anakin to remember Watto by. She believes he misses Anakin's, mischief. Another entry states that Watto returned from Mos Eisley with knowledge that Qui-Gon was murdered, and now Shmi is worried about Anakin, where he is, and who's training him. And Leia is kind of relating to this worry right now, not knowing where Han is, if he's safe, what's going on with him at all. Now, quickly back to Han. He's not doing good at all. He found a cool stone, though, which means moisture, and he gets a few drops of water out of it. So, he's not doing terrible right now, but not great. It's just a few drops. Now, back to the journal. Shmi references 3PO. Doesn't say his name, just says the droid that Anakin had been building. And in this book, 3PO is not mentioned to be that droid. She doesn't say him by name, so I don't think Leia ever finds out that he was built by Anakin, which is kind of sad. I wonder what she would think at this point in time about 3PO or about Anakin, if that would help her forgive him more if she knew. But I don't know. I feel like that was a missed opportunity. I would love to have that. Maybe her and Luke both finding out. I would like to see how that goes. Wald leaves a message and talks about the swoop that he's building with Kitster. And Kitster shows the book that he bought with the credits that Anakin gave him. Now, outside of the journal, back to Leia and them, they take the Darklighter's market skiff for the search. Now, Jewel and Scylla are in the driver's cabin of the skiff, while the others are in the cargo area. And their searches are just based on guesses. They have no clue where to look. They're just guessing where to go. And a tie and a shuttle go overhead. It's a searching patrol. They end up, and in the cargo hold, they get into these body bags to hide, just in case they have an inspection of it. Now, they overhear these troopers speaking to Jewel and Scylla. They tell the Imperials that they're a search and rescue, seeing if they're trying to find any survivors, but haven't found any yet. Now, in the cargo, they know that they're about to inspect the vehicle, so they pop this odor capsule to discourage a close interior inspection. Now, while they're searching, they ask about the smell, and Jewel tells them that they found some folks pretty far gone, and that they're welcome to take a closer look, but obviously, these troopers do not do this. Do not blame them. The Imperials tell them that they're looking for Kitster and ask if they found any bodies around the swoop, and they say none that would be close enough to be him. The Imperials go on their way now. They wonder where Han could have gone and decide that the Bantha Burrows be their best bet. Once there, Leia sees something through her macro binoculars. Okay, so in this story, they say macro binoculars, and they also say electro binoculars. I don't know the difference, but there must be a difference. Anyway, she sees something through them, and Leia and Chewie are shooting these creatures called Uaris, aka bloodsuckers, as the scribs go to take a look, see if he's there. Now, they find him, but he refuses to move unless he sees Leia first, and he's in terrible shape. The drops of water from the stone did not help him at all. He has heat burns, he's dehydrated, but he manages to tell Leia that the painting is going to Anchorhead, which they already knew. Thanks, though. So they rush to Anchorhead to the Cedar Driss Inn for Han to recover in, and in hopes to intercept the Sandcrawler. While here, Han is out cold with a hydration drip in his arm, and Leia is realizing her potential in the Force and she still has too much anger within her to make a good Jedi right now. Now, they meet like I think it's the owner. I don't know what this word means, the Protrius. I think it's the owner. Her name is Dama, and she is Aunt Beru's younger sister. And she tells Leia that the Darklighters left and will contact Tamara in the morning to update her. She notices the journal and tells her that it was her grandmother's name, Shmi, and she tells her that she only met her a few times and never met Anakin. She tells her more background, including how she died, and that after Luke was brought to Owen, he decided there was no need for anyone to know where Shmi was buried and got rid of the headstone. Kitster saved a recording of the Bunta race to the journal so Anakin could watch it, and he never watched it, so now Leia gets to watch it. Next morning, her and Han are woken by voices of stormtroopers in the next suite. Leia grabs a datapad and watches the Imperials through the cams. While Dama is speaking to the Imperials, Han and Leia quickly meet up with 3PO and Chewie. The squibs are down the hall, asleep after a long night of playing with water. Now, the night before, Dama was not happy about them wasting all the water and playing in it, and asked Leia to get them to stop, and she said she'd get Chewie to handle it, and I don't think that she ever did because it was never mentioned. Now, they plan to exit through the secret exit, but the Imperials are covering every single exit in the building. So they get the squibs who are stealing water now. They probably plan to sell buckets of water and then keep the water. Now their plan is a crossfire ambush. Now you might be wondering what that is. I'm about to tell you. Han, Leia, and one of the squibs are in one suite, and the others and Chewie go into the one across the hall. Now troopers are going down this hallway, clearing out rooms as they go. Now both of these doors open that Han, Leia, Chewie, and all of them are in, and they begin to fire down the hallway out of both rooms at the same time, and then Han almost gets shot. And Leia pulls out the datapad looking at the cameras and confirms that only the officer is out there now. So Han throws a container of water into the hallway, wasting it, and the officer begins to fire into it, causing an entire hallway to fill up with steam. And now they fire into the hallway again, all of them. So the officer dives for cover and vanishes from sight. Now through the steam, Han sees glowing red eyes. I wonder who that could be. Once he aims to shoot, Chewie blocks the shot so he doesn't get the shot off. And by the time he steps around Chewie to take it again, the eyes are gone. Now they all head out of the side door and escape with a dozen dewbacks. They are now strapped in smugglers' slings, so no one sees them, and these dewbacks are being ridden by Askajin drivers, and they strike a deal with the squibs, and they will help them find a sandcrawler, but won't let it disrupt their business. The Askajins had to flee their home world due to the Imperials, and their leader is Borno. Leia, Han, nor us really know what this deal was with the squibs, but they said it was an excellent deal and they had their best interests at heart. A hover scout now comes flying close to the caravan, which is this tribe with the dewbacks. I'm just going to call them the caravan now. And they all pull out their heavy blasters to intimidate them, and the trooper examines them, then lets them go. So Borno takes lead, yells out a command, and they hide their blasters and leave Anchorhead behind them. And now begins the endless TIE fighter flyby. I guess they just wanted drama or something, so they just kept writing the same thing over and over and make the book longer, I guess. It could have been way shorter, but they keep talking about this. Now a TIE flies down, apparently from behind, so low that they all duck, and it comes back for a few more passes, which freaks out the dewbacks, and they run off. Once they get them to stop running off, Borno and the others hook the entire caravan together to prevent them from freaking out and running off like this again. At this point, I'd like to point out that Han and Leia are riding the dewbacks while all the others are in the smuggler slings, since they can, with their hoods, they can kind of pass for these people. And Leia notices Han shaking and says he cannot be out in the heat this long so soon. She points out that the Darklighter farm isn't far away and they can hide him out there for a day or two while he recovers. He says he's not going anywhere without her. Now the TIE comes back again, and they all take out their blasters and fire into the sky as like a warning to send a message. Once it's gone, Borno cuts the caravan loose and says they can cut Chewie, 3PO, the squibs out of the smuggling slings, And Leia says they'll be back with a shuttle, and Borno agrees. And he says that they will be looking where the caravan had been traveling. Then he points to the Needles Mountains and says, we will be there. He says that that's where the Jawas go when the winds are too strong, so the Sandcrawler should be there. And we find out that Borno is going to the Jawas anyway to get some moisture evaporators, so he's bringing them with him. And this funny interaction happens between Borno and 3PO. Borno asks 3PO if he can ride, and 3PO says he's an excellent rider and can list 829 different vehicles he's been a passenger of. So Borno has 3PO ride with him. And 3PO offers to sing him a song in his language, which there are 722 verses. And Borno says, I'm glad you're not giving me this droid. Perhaps this is a good time to make payment. We find out that the Squibs' deal was to give Borno the vid map. Now the caravan spreads across the way, making no rows that would be easily identified from the sky. And Han is still not doing well. The heat is starting to take its toll, as it has been for a while now, and it's making him wobbly and at times struggle to stay on the saddle. Leia notices this, but whenever she says something, he straightens up and tries to put on like a brave front. Han says there's no orbital surveillance satellite or drone that will be able to spot them despite not exactly being undercover, because at this time of day, with the twin suns, all they'll see is heat and light, and the only way they'll be spotted is from another low fly like before, and there's an hour left of their journey. So Leia passes the time with the journal. During this entry, Shmi says a Faline girl from Coruscant came with a message from Qui-Gon, and the recording of her talking about it was corrupted. But the next thing we learn is Watto asking how many pod races Anakin has won, and kind of shows that in a way Watto does care and miss Anakin. The next entries are all about Shmi meeting Clegg Lars. They met when he was trying to buy something from Watto, and Shmi helped him when Watto was trying to scam him. Now back to the caravan. Han and Chewie's dewback start sprinting and the others follow. As they sprint, Han slips out of the saddle and falls onto the ground, and they can't tell the difference between Han's body and the rocks he's laying by. The Squibs and Leia jump off their mounts. Two of the Squibs get Han and pull him to a sitting position, while the third one pulls Leia to her feet, and they go to Han. He's still in bad shape, worse than usual, and he stops sweating, which is a bad sign. They end up getting the cover just in time for another TIE to fly by, lower this time, so they would have definitely been spotted. The direction they're traveling is toward a canyon, and along the way they find Chewie, and he throws Han over his shoulder, and they continue. Leia's trying her best, but she's not doing well. She's drenched in sweat and staggering along. Chewie reaches the canyon and starts going down the steep slope, and Leia, falling behind, is no longer sweating. She can't even get Chewie's name out of her mouth, and her legs grow weak, her vision turns black, and she falls as the TIE returns. Her vision clears, and the TIE is gone again. Chewie gives her water, and she drinks until her head stops spinning, and at the bottom of the canyon they spot Sandcrawler treads hidden by shadows. Before the end of the overhang, the rest of the caravan have their weapons drawn. On the floor of the cavern, there are tons of bodies of murdered Jawas, slain stormtroopers, and their equipment, their speeder parts, droids, evaporators, all destroyed among them. This Imperial patrol had found the crawler, and while they were searching it, they were all attacked by Tusken Raiders. Leia has Chewie get stormtrooper armor with a functioning cooling unit, and turns to ask the Squib something, but they're gone. They guess they went into the Sandcrawler to steal the painting, and Chewie starts to go after them, but Leia says, get the armor, forget them, Han's more important. Han and Leia are both in bad shape, but Leia is more focusing on his well-being, which honestly is hella redeeming herself for what happened in the last book. She pissed me off so bad in that last book, she's redeeming herself here. Leia's cool. Now her tongue swells twice the size, and she has another vision of Han's face with white spheres in his eyes, and she keeps hearing mine in Han's voice, and the eyes eventually turn golden. The vision fades to 3PO offering her Bactaid because she collapsed, and her and Han both drink it, and she finds out that she was out for an hour. Now the caravan is salvaging whatever they can from the smashed evaporators, and there's one Jawa left alive. Borno tells them to save their strength because the caravan plans to leave soon. They haven't heard any ties in the last hour, so they're pretty confident that no one can find them in these canyons. Borno tells them there's no painting or human, but the Squibs won't let anyone in the upper parts of the crawler because they've claimed salvage rights on it, even though one of the Jawas are still there, so I don't know how they can do that. Borno tells them that he can take them to an Imperial deserter and explains he can be trusted because he is the one that helped them get the Tatooine and is going to help another tribe soon, which is why they need the Vaporators. Now, apparently, Wraith Squadron's mission to Askaj is to get them off-world and to capture that Grand Moff. And Leia needs to call them immediately and tell them that they need to be on time or this tribe will die. They tell Borno they can't travel with them anymore because that will just put them at more risk. And he reminds them that the Squibs claimed salvage rights on the crawler and is very sure that they don't plan on giving them a ride. Leia says that there's plenty of square parts around and 2 hover scouts and they can just put something together and go on their way. She offers a holo comm suggesting to call the Imperials and report that they left them at Grand Kot. Now Leia tends to the Jawa's leg. It's a she and her name is Harat. Leia asks her if she has a vid map, but she has none, but she says she can help them get anywhere they need. Harat tells them that the Tuskens took Kitster and the painting and can show them where they took them. 2 hours later, they're waiting to be in contact with Mon Mothma, who does not know how to hurry and is not on time, and they estimate they'll have about 15 to 30 minutes before the assault shuttle arrives after Borno calls them. Now, Mon Mothma finally calls and Leia tells her she'll have to shut down the transmission in 30 seconds. She tells her that they don't have the painting, and neither do the Imperials, but this tribe on Askaj, I still can't say it, is moving into position and they cannot be contacted, so they have to be on time to get them out of there. Now, after the call with Luke, they cancel that mission, but that transmission to cancel it goes out in 30 hours. So Leia asks for 30 hours to receive the painting and for them to cancel that transmission, and that Han is with her and on board. Mon Mothma says, welcome back, and that the New Republic has missed him. She sucks, get out of here, resign from your position. Leia tells her to monitor all communication channels and doesn't know when she will contact again, but it will not be from the same unit they're using now. And after the call, Han brings the communicator to Borno to make his call, and they go their separate ways. Han did outsmart the Squibs, though. The initializer core of the Sandcrawler is in the speeder's cargo bay, so they will still be there when Harat returns with the other Jawas to bury their dead. The Imperials are acting as expected. The assault shuttle came down after Borno called and left to search the Great Kot. Now, Harat is directing Han, Leia, and Chewie through the deep canyons where it would be impossible to be spotted by satellites, and she is leading them to Oasis, not the band, which is deep in Tusken territory, which is a sacred ghost village where they believe an angry ghost slaughtered an entire tribe of Tuskens, which was actually Anakin. Ever since then, the Tuskens stopped there to present gifts to please the ghost, and that is why they took Kitster and the painting. The plan is to sneak into the village once they leave and retrieve them undetected. Now, following the rules from television and movies, this plan will not work, because they told us the plan. Usually the plan works in movies and TV show if you don't hear it. So now it'll take a few hours to reach Oasis, and they are passed by Obi-Wan's old home, but decides it's too much of a risk to stop, so she watches more of the journal. Han notices this and asks what it is and where she got it, and he tells her to keep the volume up because he's interested. Now, in the journal, Clegg Lars brought Owen to Shmi, just making an excuse to introduce him to her. Clegg tries to buy her many times, but Watto takes advantage of his feelings and drives up the price as much as possible. Watto didn't really want to sell her because she was basically his only friend. The journal watching time is interrupted because Leia accidentally turned on the speeder's communicator, and they have to smear the holocams quickly. An Imperial voice asks questions through the communicator, and 3PO, in an injured man's voice, speaks to him. 3PO says the Tuskens are attacking, and they start shooting and letting out screams, staging an attack for the Imperials listening, and they see 2 Tuskens in the moonlight in the distance, shaking the weapons as they do. 3PO says their holomap is malfunctioning, so they can't send their exact location. The Imperial says no worries, their ties are following a sandcrawler not long from where their comms are originating from. And now Han gets them out of there, bringing them to a deep ravine. Now back to the journal. Shmi feels bad for cheating Watto. For background on this, Qui-Gon sent Shmi a Tobal lens, which is very hard to come by, and she gave it to Clegg, and he is going to sell it to Watto for her freedom. Now, upon seeing it, Watto turns to Shmi and goes, "The Jedi sent you that." What do you think? I'm stupid? I can't do his voice, but I'm going to try it here in a minute again. Shmi tells him that it belongs to Clegg now, and if he wants it, he's going to have to deal with him. Watto eventually gives in, and Clegg asks for the deactivator wand and asks where the transmitter bomb is located in Shmi. This is like Suicide Squad with the bomb. He says it's behind her jaw on the left, but he won't be needing it because he deactivated not long after Anakin left because he was afraid she'd get herself killed since she was so depressed and mopey. And Watto opens the box and a flash of light shines out and all you can hear is, "You have blinded me," which I thought was really funny. Now Han says that those lenses can turn heat into light close to 100% efficiency, so it's super bright. And a TIE flies by. The Imperials sent out a rescue for what they thought were their men being attacked. Now Leia feels that going to Oasis now is a bad idea and feels that she needs to go to Kenobi's. And Han says that Kitster doesn't have time. The Imperials will widen their search. The Tuskens are following them as well. He believes that their best chance is to beat everyone to this camp, and they continue watching this journal. Leia tells Han that she has a feeling that they need to get to Obi-Wan's to find something they need to save Kitster and get the painting, so they readjust, and once at his home, Herat finds a data pad with Han's face on it, and they find out that Empire do know who they are and that they are under orders to take them alive. They find out a little bit more information though. If they kill one of them, they will lose 1 month's wages. This also says if someone destroys the painting, they will be executed. Now 3PO spots 3 TIEs flying over the Dune Sea, directly where they would have been heading. So Leia saved them from this, and they find out Obi-Wan's home has been ransacked many more times since the last time they've been here. Leia feels she's starting to make sense of all of this, that they all belong to the Force, and must do what it guides them to do, and it cannot be fought against. They end up finding a secret hatch in Obi-Wan's house that leads to a cellar with an ancient data pad inside of it, and a star chart. Leia activates the data pad, but there is nothing that can currently help them. It's just used to research hyperspace lanes leading to the unknown regions. Which, if you don't know, it's where Thrawn, the Chiss, which is a species, and the Chiss Ascendancy are from. 3PO thinks that Obi-Wan was thinking about leading a mission to search for the Outbound Flight, which is a book, I know. I think it has to do with Joruus C'baoth, the non-cloned version. And I don't know if I should read that. Let me know if it's good. Apparently, according to this, Obi-Wan might be in it. I might be interested in it, honestly. Now, honestly, the best part of the book is here. We could probably end the video after this. Honestly, this is all that matters. Han and Leia have a discussion about the painting. Han wants to know how the painting was made, and she says she's not sharing how it was made. And she says not sharing how it was made and letting it die is the whole point. It underscores the unfortunate ending of Alderaanian culture. And the creator never passed on how he made the colors in the painting so deep. Leia says that the meaning is inherent in its work, and you only have to look at it, and that everyone, even the galaxy's finest critics, agree on its meaning. But Han disagrees and feels it's a warning about the cost of surrendering to darkness, and that everyone else is wrong. Leia says that the Killiks are looking back at what they're about to lose, and that the creator didn't want to show their faces, so no one knows what they actually look like. Han disagrees. To him, they're turning, and their bodies are twisting at their waist. Now, I won't go into much more detail about this. It's a nice moment and a nice change of pace from all the dangerous situations that keep happening like every 5 minutes in this book. It's honestly the best part. Though I do feel like it's the best part. I feel like it would be boring to hear me talk about this painting for 20 minutes. And I also can't show a reference image. I can't find one. And it seems that no one has made this in real life, but I will keep looking as I edit this video, and if I find it, I'll put it here. Alright, I'm editing the video right now, and I was trying to find a picture of the Killik Twilight painting, and this is as close as I got. I'm assuming that it's not this, because they said something about deep colors. This is all one color, basically, but he's like, they're like turning back like Han said, so I think this is as close as I'm going to get. Nonetheless, this was a great moment between the two, and I'm glad it's here because it's my favorite part of the book. Leia tells him that everyone else doesn't have to be wrong for him to be right, and that art has many different meanings to different people. This conversation takes a turn to kids. Leia saying she can't make a decision on that right now, with what's going on presently and her feelings with her father being currently uncertain. So they listen to the journal as they watch Oasis through electro binoculars. Again, I don't know the difference between electro and macro. The next entries become more about the Tuscans, and Leia feels uneasy and heavy knowing what's about to happen and how she dies. Now the last entry, Shmi is told by Clegg and Owen that they'll be fine as long as they don't go outside at night. And it ends with her saying, "We'll be fine, Anakin, I'm sure." And Leia wonders how this journal ended up where it is found, and wonders if the journal would have made a difference in Anakin's life if he saw it, or if it remained here to make a difference in her own. She begins to think that her vision could have been telling her to forgive Anakin, and she hears Han wake up at this point, and she quickly turns to Oasis. Han calls her out and for not paying attention and trying to hide it. And Leia tells him that she found what she came here for, and Han says, "Tell him later they need to get out of here fast." Han holds up this tracking device and reveals that the squibs are following them, and she runs off saying she's going to strike a bargain. At this point, we don't know what it is, but whatever it is, the squibs would only agree if one of them go to Oasis while the other two go with Chewie to the Falcon. And Herat the Jawa took the Sandcrawler and is leaving with the TIE following her. Han and Leia, which are both in Stormtrooper armor at this point, to remain cool, them and the squib are all walking to Oasis. So in addition to giving Herat the crawler, they told her they'd give her a Quaxon Mark 15, which we'll find out what it is later. Herat's part seems to only be a diversion, while Chewie takes the speeder to get the Falcon and the others walk to Oasis. Now this diversion works, a full squadron of TIEs begin dropping overhead. So I feel like the best way to talk about this from this point on is to say Team 1, which is Leia, Han, and one squib, and Team 2, which is 3PO, Chewie, and the other two squibs. So Team 1 is taking the quickest, most hidden, but also the most obvious way to Oasis, and they walk by dead troopers and hide behind boulders as an Imperial shuttle flies over, and troopers zipline to the Sandcrawler. These troopers find Herat locked in a toolbox, and she thanks them for saving her life, and Team 1 can hear the radio since they're wearing the armor. And they hear a trooper report that the rebels may be traveling in stolen speeders. Team 1 is attacked by a Tusken and is saved by an Imperial sharpshooter, and upon seeing him, he and Han wave at each other, and then they are waved over. The squib on Team 1 is hiding at this point, and once the Imperial squad leader demands their service numbers, Han says he's doing a practical efficiency study, and Leia is his combat escort. Now Leia pretends to be of command, asks the squad leader for his service number, and he says it, and says she's pushing for a young fellow. She tells him they're part of Company A until redeployment, and needs an overlook over the camp as close to the action as possible and alone. Their observations are classified. Squad leader has two stormtroopers escort them to a good spot, and Han tells them that Leia is Quentin's son, straight out of the academy. Once in position, they take out their electro binoculars and they see a holding cell. And Leia feels a phantom pain, unsure if it's from what has happened here or what is about to happen here. And my money's on it's what Anakin did for sure. As she's looking down at the huts, she drops the binoculars and they slide all the way down to Dune. And she knows that this is where they took Shmi. This is where she died. Now the Chewie and Team 2, they're on the way to the Falcon and they spot an AT-AT and two hover scouts. Now the walker is blocking the cave entrance and there's two platoons of troopers grappling down. And they can hardly see, but they're shooting blindly, trying to shoot the lines of the stormtroopers grappling down. And Chewie barely avoids the leg of the walker. They enter the cave, take out the guards, and race up the boarding ramp. The squibs throw thermal detonators under the walker, but they're unsure if it took it out. Now Chewie powers up the Falcon. Now back to Han and Leia, since I don't know where the squib went at this point. Leia explained what Anakin did here and why. Han understands why he did it, but Leia says he knew better. A trooper appears from behind, apologizes for interrupting, but he noticed they dropped their electro binoculars and offers his. What a nice guy. Turns out he's an admirer of Commander Quentin. And Leia says she'll tell him how helpful he's been, and he leaves. Now back to the previous conversation. Han sort of defends Anakin, saying what he did wasn't evil, it was human, and reminds Leia that he was the one that killed the Emperor. They notice a squib down below sneaking around and that there are troopers approaching them from behind, so they slide down the dune and call Chewie for pickup. Now, as a reminder, the troopers are only ordered to kill the Tuskens and to stun the rebels, but they say they can't stun the rebels because they're wearing their own armor, which I don't think that's how it works. I'm pretty sure in A New Hope, Leia stunned 2 stormtroopers in their armor. So now Team 1 is being attacked by Tuskens that were hiding in bushes, and they're currently being killed by the troopers. And Han and Leia are shooting at the troopers, which I wouldn't do. I'd just let them take out the Tuskens, but whatever. So they sprint to the main hut where Kitster is inside, but they're held down by fire, and Leia shoots through the fabric, identifying themselves, and Kit doesn't believe her. So Han shoots through the fabric and goes in, reveals his identity, and apologizes for the long wait. And now these slug throwers are piercing through the tent. The Tuskens are rushing them, and Leia throws out thermal detonators. Han cuts Kit loose because he's tied up, picks him up over his shoulder because he's dehydrated and starved. He's easy to carry right now. Han tells him they have to either destroy or recover the Killik Twilight, and Kit tells him that it's on the ceiling of the hut. Leia grabs it, and they get out of there while Imperials notice and are authorized to shoot their legs, which probably wouldn't end up like that. They're bad shots in the first place, and I think it would be very hard. That's a bad plan. They run forward and return fire, and they take out many Tuskens. It's like chaos right now. 2 Tusken kids then attack Han with their gaffy sticks, and he just takes them out of their hands, and they just run away. Take notes, Anakin, that's how you deal with the kids. You don't slaughter. They run towards the Banthas, grab their wool on the sides, and pull themselves up. Han and Kitster are having trouble with this, but the squib helps who's already on it somehow unnoticed. I don't know how he got on there. Now, back to Team 2. The Falcon takes off, the walker is destroyed, and the 2 squibs are manning the guns, taking out the ties. Chewie's flying so low that he's creating this gigantic dust cloud behind him, and these ties are flying completely blind directly into each other. Back to Team 1. She gets the Shadowcast key out of the painting, and they're all sitting in this small circle of boulders right now as Tuskens are firing into the rocks, and the Imperials are trying to flank them. Leia's coolant was damaged during the battle, and she's slowly cooking alive in this armor. Leia shoots the Shadowcast chip so there's no way it'll get into the wrong hands, and hands the painting to the squib to be watered. This painting apparently has to be watered in a certain way, and Kitster helps with this. Turns out that giving the squibs the painting was part of their deal, and they begin shooting randomly to where they think the Tuskens might be hiding. Sometimes they hit the right spot, sometimes not. Leia fires into the ground, which freaks out the Banthas, and they start running and trample stormtroopers, and the Tuskens come out of hiding and chase after their Banthas. Han, trying to get the painting back from the squibs, asks them to come to the New Republic because they'll pay more than anyone else will. He wants it to go to Leia. But the squibs are going to sell it to the Empire, and Kitster's disgusted by this. Anyway, the Falcon arrives. The squibs take a speeder out of it to make it seem like they stole it from them, and Han shoots at them to make it more believable that they stole it so they can, sell the story. Leia takes Kitster to an escape pod, grabs his diagnostic kit, which is the thing that they promised to give Herat, so Kit can give it to her. He hasn't met her. I don't know how he's going to do that. I don't know how he's going to find her. But I guess there's only one sandcrawler or poor small area like this, so I guess it's not going to be hard to find her after all. I don't know. I feel like it'll be a challenge though. Before he leaves, they have a short conversation. Kit says that he stole the painting to give to Leia because she is Anakin's daughter, and says it's the least he can do for what Anakin did for him. How does he know that she is Anakin's daughter when in the Thrawn trilogy they don't know that it's Anakin's daughter? The Empire doesn't know. The Mara Jade doesn't know. The Nogri don't know, and that's a whole premise of the. I mean, that's a huge part of the trilogy that the Nogri don't know. They find out that she's Vader's daughter, and then go to the rebellion, then go to the New Republic side, defect to them, and then fight the Empire. So I don't know how this random guy from Tatooine knows that she's Anakin's daughter. It makes no sense, but I'm gonna just let it be. Because who cares? Kitster knows that Anakin slaughtered the Tuskens, and that even before he found this out, he had known that Anakin returned with Shmi's body, but once he was captured by the Tuskens and they were doing the sword dance ritual, it was pretty obvious to him who they were imitating. He then tells her that He went to the Lars homestead after Anakin left, and Beru told him that Anakin said over Shmi's grave that he wasn't strong enough to save her, he wasn't strong enough. And after thinking about it for a while, he believes that the second time he said he wasn't strong enough was him recognizing his wrongdoing, not just repeating himself. Now, he was very close to seeing Anakin again. I think that would have been a very interesting thing if he had. I wonder if anything would have changed if that would have actually happened. But yeah, him repeating himself wasn't repeating himself. He was recognizing his wrongdoing and that he failed as a Jedi. Anyway, they say their goodbyes and she launches the pod and now he's gone. Now they escape. There are 3 Star Destroyers in orbit, and Leia directs them away to get out of there. The Star Destroyers are blocking their only escape, so they fly towards the suns. 3PO calculates they only have 14 seconds until they can't change direction anymore because of the gravitational pull of the suns, so they plan it for 16 seconds instead. As Chewie is calculating the jump, Leia wants to ask Han a question in case of a miscalculation. And Han says, miscalculate? I thought you had a feeling, which I thought that was really funny. That was a great part. It felt like straight out of the movies there. And this is where Leia asks him why he wants kids so badly, and Han is off put by the timing of this conversation. So Chewie sends the coordinates and Han redirects the Falcon. He says it's his way in believing in the future. As he activates the hyperdrive going into hyperspace, Leia says, good answer. And says she believes in it too, and then it ends. Love that ending. Great ending there. Now, this book mostly kept my attention because every few minutes there's another threat like TIE fighter flyovers, which was a little overdone in my opinion. And it just was repetitive and kind of got old after a little bit, but still kept my attention. The most interesting parts were between the characters, like Leia's inner turmoil about forgiving Anakin and her slowly getting to that point, and her thoughts about having kids as well. The Han and Leia moments, basically the best parts of the book. That one part with Grunt and Chewie, how they don't like each other, and every time Chewie says something, he's like, what did he say? I love that part as well. That was great. The Watto moments were also great. Love that too. Especially when he opened the box and he got blinded. I thought that was hilarious. I would love to see that in like either live action or like a animated show or something. That would be incredible comedic moment. Now, this was like a good character arc for Leia. Like, there's parts where she's caring for Han, really redeeming herself for how she was in the last book with the whole I sold her thing and all that, not knowing if she loves Han or not, even though it's obvious that they do. But even though that book was great, this had an amazing character arc, redeeming her character from those sort of decisions that were in there that weren't the best decisions. Her learning how to accept the Force and that it's kind of her destiny to actually learn it, and their path of forgiving Anakin eventually. Like in the beginning she was very against it, and then slowly she started learning more and more things about him. It's just dropped in the story like every once in a while, and it just started adding up. It's never directly said if she forgives him, but her journey of not wanting kids to wanting them at the end kind of, to me, confirms that she forgives him for the most part and made peace with it. This also sets up Heir to the Empire with the Chimera and Thrawn, though not being mentioned by name. And it's just great because it's like, it should be only a few months after this book takes place that we get Heir to the Empire, I guess. And they reference stuff that happened in other books like Bakura or Courtship, and I'm glad we're finally getting that instead of always referencing the movies. Now, the squibs were cool, I guess, and they're pretty funny. But once I looked up their design, I was not a fan. I'll show it one more time right here. I was not a fan. It just looked cartoony, a little too furry for me as well. And once again, I love the character moments between Han and Leia, especially the part with them talking about the painting, which I kind of cut short to not be too boring about it. It's 100% my favorite part of the book. Shmi's journal was cool. It was a great gateway to change Leia's point of view on Anakin, and like that he wasn't always evil, to kind of get her over that hump, over that hatred, over the fear. But even though I love those parts very much, I'm going to have to rank this a C, because even though the character moments are great, the painting, the journal stuff, the every moment between Han and Leia, Grunts, Chewie, Watto being funny, the squibs being funny, but the repetitiveness of the book kind of like drags it down. It's like, I don't know, I wasn't a fan of the overall plot. I think the painting was cool, but still, again, the best parts were the character moments between them, and I could have used more of that because or just shorten the book. It could have been short as well, because like them with the Askagens or whatever, however you say that, that did not need to be as long as it was. I felt like that dragged it down, and the part where Han was on the swoop, that went on a little bit too long in my opinion. And yeah, it just needed a little bit more character moments because that's what shined in this. The action was not my favorite part. So yeah, I'm gonna rank it a C. And the next story we're gonna dive into is Crimson Empire. Cannot wait for that. And I got some other things planned afterwards. I'm gonna get back into the post Dark Empire part of it because we had this pit stop where we went back, read Courtship because of a comment, and then I saw the timeline. This took place 6 to 8 months after, so I was like, I gotta read this. I don't know anything about it. It's got to tie in, and it did tie into Courtship, and I'm glad it did. It had great character moments. It was a blast, but sadly, I'm still gonna rank it a C. And so yeah, I'll see you next time when we're into Crimson Empire. Peace.